Is there a difference between walking in truth and in the truth? And what's John talking about in 3 John 4? I received an email the other day asking me about 3 John 4, and what they were mystified about is why, when you have in truth, why some translators would say in the truth. So let's take a look at that. John says, I do not have joy greater than this. Okay, this is what causes the greatest joy of John, and I would think of any pastor, that I hear that the children, my children, are walking in truth. Okay, now what does that mean, walking in truth? You notice that in my translation, I put in the article the, and so does the NIV. And if you go through some of the other translations, you'll find that most of them include the. NASB includes the. Notice that it's not italicized. If you've been listening to these blogs much, you'll know this is a common peeve of mine, that if you're going to claim to italicize every English word that's not directly represented by a Greek word, then you should do precisely that. And the NASB, while it's a good translation, simply does not italicize every inserted English word, but they do say walking in the truth. The ESV, walking in the truth, again, this myth that you can see the Greek behind the English on formal equivalent translations is simply not true. You would look at walking in the truth and assume that there's a Greek article behind the, another pet peeve. You notice the CSB though, walking in truth, they don't include the article. But the NRSV, walking in the truth, Net Bible, according to the truth, NLT are following the truth. The King James is the only other one that just says walk in truth. So you have this difference of opinion among the translations. And again, because so many include the article, there has to be a reason for it. And the reason is simply this. When you have a prepositional phrase, en aletheia, it is very common for the Greek article to be dropped, so common that if it makes sense in the context, you can add them back into the translation. So there is no question about the legitimacy of saying walking in the truth. Well, how do you decide? Well, I think you have to look at what would walking in truth and walking in the truth mean. Is there a difference? And I would say that walking in truth means that you are truthful in how you live your life, or something like that. Walking in the truth would have to be the truth of the gospel. How do you decide what John means here? Well, you can look at the context. You can also look at how John uses the word elsewhere. And I found a couple of interesting examples. In the preceding verse, which is going to be very important, here's your immediate context. Rejoice greatly, coming, brothers. In other words, I rejoice greatly when the brothers come, and they are witnessing about you, about the truth. And you see, my translation is to your fidelity in the truth. Here, it's not a prepositional phrase, but you have the article. And so in the immediate context, he's talking about the truth of the gospel. Indeed, you walk in truth. Now look at this. In the same context where here you have the truth and here you have in truth, but contextually they have to have the same meaning, which is why I say walk in the truth. And that's going to carry over into verse 4, which is your argument that you can insert the English the into the translation. I did find 2 John 1 to be kind of interesting. So the elder to the elect lady and the children of her and to her children, whom I love in truth. Well, that sounds like he's saying, I truly love her. But then he continues, and not only I, but also all those who know the truth. So the greeting is coming not only from John, who loves her, but also from those who know the truth. In other words, other true believers. Well, if here this is the gospel, then you wonder about what actually this means. I'm pointing this out just to say that there is flexibility in how John uses aletheia, and sometimes it does appear to mean truly, and other times it's a distinct reference to the gospel. So, what are we going to do with 3 John 4? Well, when you see that in the immediate context you have the truth, which is defining the prepositional phrase here, I think the argument would be that they are primarily thinking down in verse 4 of the truth of the gospel. But again, you don't want to separate these two ideas as being completely different. People who know the truth of the gospel are supposed to be truthful in how they live out their commitment to the gospel. So the ideas are not totally separate. But anyway, that's why you can add the in this prepositional phrase if you think it matches the context and John's usage.